the Rob Carson Show, and it will begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, you know the drill.
It's the Rob Carson Show. Are you ready to be pod-smacked? Now, here's Rob Carson.
Hello, welcome to the show, guys. Glad to have you here, and glad to have me here, too, in 2019. 2019, are you still making, that error on your checks and whatnot? Of course you are. I fill out a lot of paperwork at my work, and so consequently I'm constantly screwing up the 2019 thing. But, it just happens. I don't know what the Chinese New Year's coming up. I don't know if it's the Year of the Dragon or what the hell it is. But anyway, welcome to the show. Glad to have you guys here. Much to get to. The Democrats took over the House. And Hillary Clinton a while back promised that civility would return when the Democrats took control of the House. The opposite is taking place right now in Washington, D.C. There was a lot of swearing in. There was a lot of swearing. A new congresswoman called the president a mother effer. We'll get into that very shortly. Honestly, wow. I just have no words. I really don't have words. So we're going to get into that. We're going to get into Hank Johnson. He's a member of Congress. He says that the president's immigration policy is like Roosevelt's Japanese internment policy, which was a Democrat thing. So we'll get to that. All sorts of madness, some comedy as well. So all of that's coming up. tpublic.com/user/conservative. See that website? Those are my designs with a friend of mine named Sam Cangelosi. We put together this line of T-shirts, swag, and other stuff, including that new Alexandria Ocasio Cortez item there. You can have that done on T-shirts. You can have it put on laptop cases, phone cases. Mugs, whatever. Make Hillary in 20 never. That's a big one. You can order that. It'd be greatly appreciated. These are all original designs, and I think they're gosh darn funny. So, all right. So let's get started here. Hillary Clinton started the ball rolling as the new Speaker of the House with doing what she's been doing for the last few years, speaking unintelligibly and being very confused. All right. Here she is where she actually kind of loses her place in her first speech as Speaker. You're Speaker. You're supposed to be able to speak, but I guess this doesn't count when you're Nancy Pelosi.
As we take the oath of office today, we accept responsibility as daunting and demanding as any that previous generations of leadership have faced.
Really?
Guided by the vision and values of our founders, the sacrifice of our men and women in uniform, and the aspirations that we have.
Who, by the way, the Democrats never bring up unless it's some sort of a speech. All right? They give a rat's behind about our men and women in the military until they're giving some sort of speech where they want to take some sort of credit for supporting them when they never do.
For our children, let us meet that responsibility with wisdom, with courage, and with grace.
Grace. Okay.
Together, we will let it be known that this house will truly be the people's house.
It hasn't been that in a very long time.
Let us pray that God may bless our work and crown our good with brotherhood and sisterhood from sea to shining.
And then there's another thing they never want to bring up, and that's God. So that the military and God, they want God out of schools. They want God about everything. But suddenly God can be used in a speech.
See. God bless you all, and God bless the United States of America. I think I skipped a couple of pages.
I think I skipped a couple pages. That's why they're applauding. That's why they're applauding. They're applauding because she skipped a couple of pages. There you go. Yay! Her speech was cut short by like a half an hour because she skipped some pages. She jumped right to the denouement, the finale, and the denouement of the finale of the speech. Probably one of the greatest gifts she could have given Congress and the American people yesterday. Thank you very much, Nancy Pelosi. Yes, again, you're supposed to be the Speaker of the House. Speaker of the House. Da, 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 da. She skipped a couple of pages, apparently. Pardon me, my headphones are necking my glasses here. Now, the Democrats, Hillary Clinton said they were going to be, civility would return to Washington, D.C. When the Democrats took control of the House. Today, which is the 4th of January, we saw articles of impeachment introduced. Articles of impeachment of the President of the United States introduced, okay? Actually, we saw that was yesterday. Today's the 4th. Yesterday it was officially introduced. We saw articles of impeachment introduced. We saw a congressman saying they wanted to get rid of, introduced legislation to get rid of the Electoral College because the Electoral College favors the population centers of the country, which have been ruled by Democrats for decades. So they want that. They want the Midwest. They want the flyover country to mean nothing. That's what they want. They want you and me, flyover country, or in red states, bullcrap, Republican states. They want them to be rolled over by the large population centers of the United States and the coasts, east and west coasts. That's what they would like. So we saw that. We also saw some vulgar, and listen, I use the word mother effer all the time. I use foul language. I'll just admit it. I don't do it on this podcast, but at the same time, I don't call the president a mother effer. I never called Barack Obama a mother effer. I mean, if you could find some tape of me calling Barack Obama a mother effer, I would ask you to do that. Rashida Tlaib. She is the first Palestinian-American congresswoman in the United States. She's from Detroit. Detroit is a hotbed for radical Islam. It is. It just is. Is she a radical Islamist? I don't know. But she in her office, apparently yesterday, there's a map in her office that shows, written in red pen, a Post-it note that says Palestine, and it's pointed at Israel, which to me says she is all for the elimination of Israel. That's what it means. And this is Detroit, people. Come on. Detroit is a hotbed for radical Islam. Detroit is becoming what Paris is. Okay? Detroit is becoming what London is. So we've got that. We've got this woman who got together with apparently MoveOn.org, did a party yesterday after the swearing in New York. She went up for it. Linda Sarsour is there. She's a radical anti-Semite, one of the people who are causing the collapse of the Women's March. The whole Women's March thing, it turns out it's tied into very, very left of center, very, very radical anti-Semites like Linda Sarsour. This didn't help. This didn't stop Regina Tlaib, or whatever the hell her name is, from getting together and at this meeting and saying this about Donald Trump at a rally with children, a lot of children there, a lot of families there, and all sorts of stuff. But this is the civility that is coming back to the United States and to Washington, D.C. since the Democrats have taken over the House.
People love you, and you win. Woo! And when your son looks at you and says, "Mama, look, you won," bullies don't win. And I said, "Baby, they don't, because we're going to go in there, we're going to impeach them all."
Okay, listen to the caterwauling. He called, or this person called Donald Trump a mother effer. We are going to impeach this mother effer. Now, listen, I'm not meaning to sound like a prude in any way, shape, or form, and I've mentioned earlier my qualifications with regard to profanity. I use a lot of it. I work in radio, and I also do some car sales, too. And let me tell you, the mother effer is something you liberally sprinkle that in the conversation, depending on who you're talking about. But I never called Barack Obama a mother effer. Okay? This is vile, vitriolic. This is typical Democrat riding into Washington, D.C. on a high horse, thinking that they have more of a mandate than they always do, and they always overplay their hand. They always do without fail. This, however, is a new low. And what's even lower is that she has not apologized for what she said, and Nancy Pelosi has not said anything about this other than, hey, I don't censor people. Let's hear it again. This is her talking about our president, the one that many of us voted for. 63 million Americans voted for this man. And you may disagree with his character and whatnot. But I'm going to tell you what. He's the president of the United States, and you don't call the president of the United States this word, and you don't say you're going to impeach the mother effer. We'll get into why that's never going to work in just a second.
And I said, baby, they don't. Because we're going to go in there, we're going to impeach them all.
Hey, listen to the caterwaul. Listen to the laugh. And inevitably, as they always do, the Democrats will overplay their hand. They always do. They always think they have some sort of a mandate, and they don't. And they don't. I voted for that mother effer. I proudly voted for that mother effer. Was he my first choice? No, he was my first choice. But I'm really, I'm thrilled with how this president is doing. Did you hear that 312,000 jobs were added to the rolls in December? It was a gigantic month. It was a gigantic. Let me look at the exact details on it, because it was a massive month for the economy. It was a massive month for Donald Trump with regard to employment and with regard to low unemployment. And once again, we have seen I'm trying to just type this up on my computer so I can get the article. It was a massive month for African-American unemployment. It is an all-time low with Hispanic unemployment. And as I've said so many times with regard to this, if Donald Trump is in fact a racist, he is the worst racist in the history of mankind. He's an awful, awful racist. He's really, really bad at being a racist and a Nazi and all these things that he's been called. And he must sit there in his Oval Office with his. Maybe this is why so many people are leaving, because he's like telling them, hey, man, we've got to destroy black people and Hispanics and brown people and all this stuff. But you know what? You keep screwing up. You just keep screwing up. And, he's the worst racist of all time. He is just the worst racist of all time. Okay, so yeah, U.S. employers, it looks like 312,000 new jobs. Job gains reported Friday by the Labor Department came despite a trade war with China. Global slowdown and despite the government partial shutdown. My God, the world hasn't stopped spinning. The employment rate rose slightly to 3.9%. Wow, that's gigantic. Was considered a positive sign, reflecting an increase in Americans beginning to look for work. And average hourly pay improved to 3.2% from a year ago. So there you go. Now, they had anticipated 180,000 jobs. They got 320,000 jobs. That's pretty big. 312,000 jobs. Only 312,000 jobs. So despite it all, the trade war, the government shutdown is the end all, right? I mean, it's supposed to, the world is going to end. The sky is falling. We've heard this before in the electorate of the American people in the fourth quarter, surrounded by Christmas. They gave a collective meh. Man, that mother effer is doing a good job, isn't he? All right. Yep. Oh, by the way, Steve Cohen is the House Judiciary Committee, not chairman, but he's on the House Judiciary, filed a bill as Congress reopened. He proposes scrapping the Electoral College because they're sore losers. And Hillary Clinton got her ass kicked. And that takes a big boot, by the way, I might just mention. Provide for the direct election of the president and the vice president of the United States. Mob rule, in other words. Hillary Clinton did win by 2.8 million votes. However, what this does, again, the Electoral College was genius. It was genius. It was meant to take power out of population centers and spread it to those who are less represented. Because at the time, the United States are largely agrarian society. And the founders didn't want the seeds of population to be the seeds of power. Philadelphia, Boston, New York. Steve Cohen doesn't get it. In 2 presidential elections since 2000, including the most recent one against Hillary Clinton, blah, 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 winner of the popular vote did not win the election because of the distorting effect of the outdated Electoral College. It's not outdated. And by the way, he's also going to take away some presidential pardon power. They can't pardon themselves, their families, their administration, or campaign staff. Well, who the F can they pardon then? But this is your civil Democrat Party taking over. Yeah, articles of impeachment. Brad Sherman, California, kicked off the impeachment resolution accusing the president of obstructing justice by ousting FBI Director James Comey, trying to intimidate Mr. Mueller, Robert Mueller, over his investigation of the 2016 election. He says, I believe that obstruction of justice is the clearest and most provable high crime and misdemeanor committed by Donald J. Trump, Mr. Sherman. The investigation has gone nowhere. Nothing has been proved. There was no collusion. James Comey essentially stopped any investigation of Hillary Clinton despite copious evidence that she had destroyed emails, that she had taken all sorts of funds from Russian oligarchs into her charity, into her the Clinton Global Initiative, whatever. $150 million. $150 million into the Clinton Global Initiative after a nuclear deal for Uranium One, where Russian-owned companies could take over a quarter of our, or a fifth, 20% of our uranium reserves in this country. Blah, blah, blah. You've heard it before. Good luck with that. So there's one woman. She's just a case. Kyrsten Sinema. She was sworn into Congress. Kyrsten Sinema decided, and by the way, I talked earlier about the radical Rashida Tlaib. She insisted that she be sworn in on the Quran. Kyrsten Sinema decided that she would be sworn in on a law book. Now, nobody knows what sort of law book this is. Nobody knows if this is some. No, she's sworn in on a law book. I'm going to get into why that is constitutionally and fundamentally wrong to the founding of the United States, and I am very serious about it. Very serious about it. Here is Kyrsten Sinema, who was a radical leftist MoveOn.org protester, Code Pink protester. She is left as the you know what I'm saying. Left. Okay. Here she is being sworn in on a law book. We don't know what the law book is. It could be a Dr. Seuss book about the law. It could be whatever, we don't know. But for some odd reason, she has decided to pledge her allegiance to law. Here she is.
Not great on it. I guess I referred to it. What is this? Well, as long as you stand, you'll be right.
Could we get a spouse?
Could we get a bleach here?
Just kidding.
So if you hold here, put your right hand in the air.
On your law book there.
Rotate your right shoulder out a little bit. Yeah, as
Okay, good.
I said so many bad things about you. You really don't seem so bad. What's your race Bannon from Johnny Quest? Oh, okay. You're the vice president. I'm sorry.
Here. Thank you.
No,
I'm new at this.
okay. With your right hand raised. Do you solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic?
The only problem is she's not defending the Constitution of the United States by putting her hand on a law book. I'll explain it.
It will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that you take this obligation freely.
I really hate the Constitution. I think it is a living document, and I think that the founders were just a bunch of white privileged dudes. That's what she's thinking.
On any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
Or mental illness.
you will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which you're about to enter. So help you God.
Wow, even so help me God. Really? Do we believe that? Look forward to working with you. Yeah.
That's very humbling.
You bet. And I'm looking forward to working with that mother effer that you call the president.
So congratulations.
Sure, Ray. See you, buddy. Yeah. Bye. I'm going to see Donald Trump impeached, and you're going to get screwed. Okay, so here's the problem. The Constitution says that our rights come from God and not from man, and not from government. And the reason why that's important is because man and government can change anything. If you say that your rights, the Bill of Rights, if you say those come from God, then government cannot usurp that. She is swearing on a book that is the antithesis to what I've just said. She's swearing on a law book. So she is saying that all of our rights, everything comes from man, and man can change that up. If man decides that man wants to kill all the Jews, then men can kill all the Jews. Or man or woman can kill all the Jews. That's the difference. Our rights come from God, not from the government. And that's where the issue is. If government decides that freedom of speech is a right you shouldn't have, freedom of expression and freedom of religion, then they can take it away. If you say that God has given us the right to freedom of religion and freedom of expression, then by God, it is a right granted to all men that cannot be usurped by government. But of course, she's swearing in on a law book. We don't know what the law book is right now, but she's swearing in on it. Did that make sense? Did that make sense? It should have made sense. Because once you turn things over to man, once you say men can create, or women, or cisgendered, or non-conforming, whatever the hell you are. I don't care. I really don't care. Non-identifying, whatever the hell. Once you turn it over to just people, then nothing comes from a higher power, and it all comes from man, so man can do anything. Anything. As I mentioned, if you say God has given us these gifts, these rights, and they are gifts, then man can't take them away. Unfortunately, she's swearing in on a law book written by men. But you know, the Bible was written by men. Really? You know. So Donald Trump stayed in Washington, D.C. during the government shutdown. And Nancy Pelosi went to Hawaii, and she had a marvelous vacation. She said that she was very close to being able to help out or do whatever. But Nancy Pelosi left Washington, D.C., even though she's very concerned for government workers who are affected by the government shutdown. By the way, government has been shut down about 3 weeks. Have you been affected by it? Some federal workers, yeah, sure. But if Nancy Pelosi is so unbelievably concerned about it, why did she go to a resort that cost, I mean, even the cheap rooms are about $1,000 a night. The cheap rooms. And you know she ain't staying in the cheap rooms. Okay? She went to Hawaii for a couple of weeks. She went the 11th of December. Couple of weeks. Now, how many people in this country get to spend more than a week on vacation? How many people in their lives get to go to Hawaii? How many people in their lives get to spend, at a resort that on the low end, the slumming at $1,000 a room? If this were anybody else, it would be a problem. Trump did not go to Mar-a-Lago. It was rumored that he'd go to Mar-a-Lago, a resort that he owns. He's not paying anything, no taxpayer money, no whatever. But Donald Trump, the thought of Donald Trump going to Mar-a-Lago got a lot of people their hackles raised. He didn't go. He stayed in Washington, D.C. Nancy went to Hawaii. This is the typical deaf ear that we hear from Democrats when they live it up. When they live it up. Let's see. There were several other Democrats who enjoyed some time off. Maxine Waters. She went to, I think it was Bermuda. She went to Bermuda. A lot of Democrats left Washington, D.C. Donald Trump went to visit soldiers in Iraq. He got ripped for that because some of the soldiers brought MAGA hats that the president signed. That was a cardinal sin that was awful. There was some sort of breaking of the rules that was illegal, et cetera, even though Barack Obama had done it sometime during his administration. It was a load of crap. So he went to Iraq to visit the troops. Melania Trump, of course, was maligned for being there, maybe for the shoes she wore. And, of course, Donald Trump, even though troops arrived with their MAGA hats and one of them signed, which any troop would have liked to, because people in the military are enthusiastic about Donald Trump arriving because he's funded them again. He's taking care of them, and he genuinely believes, unlike Nancy Pelosi, who will occasionally mention the military in a speech where she forgets half of it. But they believe in Donald Trump. That aside, Nancy Pelosi went to Hawaii, and here she is defending herself. This Hannah Guthrie, I believe, defended her action to go to Hawaii while Donald Trump stayed in Washington, D.C. Here is Nancy Pelosi.
The president took a swipe, I think, as recently as today, saying that you went on vacation to Hawaii during the shutdown. Now, you had said before the shutdown that he was being quite cavalier and that maybe the shutdown would give him more time to golf. But in the end, it was you that took a holiday.
I didn't take a holiday. I observed the Christmas holiday.
She didn't take a holiday. She observed the Christmas holiday.
For a few days, and why? Cut in half the time I would have had with my family.
Was that a cheap shot?
You cut in half the time she had with her family, which started on December the 11th. How much time did you get to spend with your family? Generally, people in the private sector, is it? Do you get 2 vacations a year? Generally, you get maybe a month off or a week off in the summer, and generally, you might take the week after Christmas to be with your family. That's it. Okay, you get a week. Nancy Pelosi had to cut short her time with her family from December the 11th through January the 3rd. So that's like, what? Nearly 3 weeks. She had to cut short, though, because honestly, she only had 3 weeks. Yeah, here she is.
They've had, it's not important.
No, it is. It is important because you're living in a bubble and you don't realize that there are a lot of federal employees who aren't going to get paid because you're hanging out in Hawaii for 3 weeks, which you consider cutting short your time with your family.
Totally unimportant. But
it's very important, actually. You elitist pig.
Is we all stood ready and we told our members we'll have 24 hours notice for all of us to be.
And honestly, we can all get on that private jet just like everybody else, and we can fly back to Washington, D.C. within 24 hours. We can get that private jet and we can fly back to Washington, D.C. in 24 hours, just like every other American.
We need to be. And the president may not know this, but Hawaii is part of the United States of America.
Okay, so she's justifying a 3-week stay at a minimum $1,000 resort in Hawaii while the president of the United States is in Washington, D.C. because the resort is in one of the states of the United States of America. That's it. So she technically was with the American people. She was within earshot of Washington, D.C. She could have come back at any moment. And didn't the president know that America, part of America, is Hawaii? Really?
He doesn't realize that. I don't know where the president observed the religious holiday of Christmas.
Okay, whatever. That's where she decided to go. And honestly, wow. I don't even know what to say. This is about the swamp. This is about Washington, D.C. versus the rest of us. And it still is. And then it still is. Right now, you got a president of the United States who stayed in Washington, D.C., went to Iraq, and he visited troops, and he came back to Washington, D.C. And he tried to end a government shutdown, which he took credit for. He said, I'll take credit for it if it means border security, he will. He's only asking $5 billion, which is it's like if you took a ruler and you laid a piece of like fresh cracked pepper on it. That would be the $5 billion versus the federal budget. And the reason he did, because he promised it to his constituents. He's going to build a wall. He's going to stem the tide coming from the southern border. That's what 63 million mother effing supporters wanted of him. And I support that mother effer. $63 million people supported this guy. And we still do. And right now, there are people who are marching into Washington, D.C., taking over the House. And there are those in the Republican Party. Have you heard anyone in the Republican Party, and there may be a couple, who said, I can't believe that somebody would call the president a mother effer? I think there are a lot of people in the Republican Party, people who are leaving, people like Jeff Flake. Jeff Flake's no longer in Congress, but there are people like Jeff Flake still in Washington, D.C., who are wanting more than anything to passively sit back and watch chaos happen. Watch chaos happen. watch the Democrats do everything they can to destroy and disrupt Donald Trump. They are on both sides. They are on both sides. And they haven't spoken up during his the first half of his term, and they certainly won't now. And now is the time that you and I have to come together and support this man. As much as you want to say about the cat, as much you want to say as the man who is untoward with regard to the way he speaks to certain groups, etc., this man, I believe in my heart, cares about the sovereignty of the country and the American people. That's why the unemployment rate is 3.9%. That's why 312,000 new jobs were created in December. That is why he wants a strong border. I could go on and on. And it's going to get ugly the next couple of years. It's going to get ugly. I am ready to suffer the slings and arrows for this man in office. I am. Hell yes. The uglier it gets, the uglier I will respond. We must rally. Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, who is a child, she was in high school less than a decade ago. She is proposing a federal income tax rate up to 70% as part of a proposal to create vast new government spending programs which have never worked. The current top federal income tax rate is 37%, so she's saying that she will nearly double the tax rate for the top bracket. In New York, that means that you would be, when you combine the federal, the New York State, and the New York City income tax, 82.696%. California taxpayers would receive a top rate of 83.3%. Taxpayers would remain impacted by other taxes, including payroll taxes, taxes on capital gains, income and dividends, and the death tax, which have always shown to be failures. Democrats rejected a proposal to make permanent a $2,000, which is a pittance, which is a French nail manicure for Nancy Pelosi. $2,000 child tax credit up from $1,000, and the $24,000 standard deduction for families up from $12,000. The Democrat. This is your Democrat Party. This is your Democrat Party. Here is a report from CBS, Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, and I think this was on CBS. These people, these idiots at NBC or CBS or whatever the hell it is, who are doing their shows in New York, have no idea that the government wants to take approximately 82% of their income, and that's okay.
Trump has met his match. Nancy, thank you.
All right, the youngest of those newly elected representatives tells 60 Minutes that Democrats should pursue radical change. 29-year-old New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio Cortez calls herself a Democratic...
I want them to do this. I want them to do this. I want them to draw the line in the sand with regard to socialism and these programs. Bring it. Because you can call somebody a mother effer, and yet you can have a rally, and you can be an Antifa member, and you could do that, but we're only going to be pushed so far. So I say, bring it. Bring it, Democrats. Do what you always do. Overstep. This is going to be the biggest overstep we've seen from the Democrat Party. And I'm going to tell you, there are 63 million people in this country who aren't just going to say no. Here's more from this report from the idiots at CBS.
Socialist, she supports Medicare for all, wants to forgive student debt, and believes marijuana should be legal. She's also...
I want to do the marijuana first before you consider those other things. Just because you'd have to be high to think they're going to work.
For a Green New Deal.
Okay, there we go. So a Green New Deal. Here is the new face of the Democrat Party. 29 years old, has no life experience, no knowledge. No life experience and no knowledge. Has not been a student of history. Has not realized that socialism killed 100 million people last century. 100 million people last century. It did. It always wrecks everything. This is a millennial college student who's been brainwashed, and now she has a position of power because there are a lot of stupid people, and there are a lot of people who love stupid people who got her to win because of a sleepy candidate and because of a gigantic amount of money being infused into her campaign, but she's in a position of power now. And the thing that really bugs me, she said so many stupid things, so many idiotic things, nonsensical things. But the media continues to basically tout her as some sort of a savior. Her program is called A New Green Deal. Now, I've said this before, if you've ever watched me before. The Democrat Party going into the last election had no positive message. They had no positive message. All they wanted to do was spend money on infrastructure, which we've already tried. Barack Obama said we'd spend $780 billion on infrastructure. It never happened. It just paid off unions, kept people in their jobs, but it did nothing. Infrastructure has not been fixed. Not been fixed. Okay? That was their big plan. And increase the minimum wage. What is the operative word? And I've said this before. The operative words in the phrase minimum wage. Minimum. It's minimum. That's it. Here we go. The tried and true tenets of the Democrat Party being tried again. New Deal. The New Deal was a joke. The New Deal was meant to get us out of the Depression by Franklin Delano Roosevelt. It's been proven time and time again that it delayed it. Do you know why it delayed it? Because the New Deal paid for roads and bridges and dams. Roads and bridges have to go someplace. They generally have to go to population centers where there are businesses, where there's capitalism. Dams have to create power for something, and someone's got to pay for it. It goes to houses and businesses, and those houses must be powered by the wages that are earned from businesses. So you can build all the infrastructure you want, but unless you have something on the other side, it's going to fail. You can't just spend money on roads and bridges because you're creating work. You are not creating jobs. Do I have to say this again? The New Deal is not a New Deal. And this is the fourth or fifth reincarnation of the New Deal. And for her to call this the New Deal shows her incredible ignorance of history. A little bit more from this idiotic story about Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, who is a child.
Crash program to refocus the U.S. economy on renewable energy.
Renewable energy. Okay. How many solar power cars do we have right now? Occasionally, you'll see this college students get together to have a solar powered car, and what it is a glorified bike, and they travel 20 miles on a glorified bike. So there are no solar powered cars. There are no solar or battery powered jet airliners. I'm just saying. I'm thinking. Am I wrong? Am I wrong in that? So renewable. I don't think wind power is going to handle the flying nationally. There are no wind powered. Well, there are sailboats, but most cruise ships aren't. Yeah, they really aren't. So right now we have. And listen, I'm a fan of conservation. I'm a big fan of if we can create fossil fuel, if we can create fuels that work, maybe alternatives to fossil fuel. That's great. But right now they don't power airplanes, and they don't power aircraft carriers or cruise ships or cars. They just don't.
Anderson Cooper asked Ocasio-Cortez about the plan and how much it could cost.
You're talking about zero carbon emissions.
Dumb as a box of rocks without the rocks.
No use of fossil fuels within 12 years.
Okay, no use of fossil fuels within the 12 years, which is even more reckless than anything they've considered in Europe. She's speaking out of her ass. She's speaking out of her ass. She has no idea what she's talking about to say to get rid of fossil fuels. Now, she's took a motorcade to the interview. She didn't ride a bike to the interview. Okay? This is typical Democrat bullcrap. They want poison light bulbs in your house. They want you to drive in a crappy car while they drive in a motorcade. 12 years to say the end to fossil fuels.
That is the goal. It's ambitious. And
it's retarded. Sorry, I don't want to use the word retarded, but okay, I'll use another term. Idiotic.
Possibly talking about everybody having to drive an electric car.
It's going to...
In 12 years, hundreds of millions of cars in this country all will become garbage, and you will have to buy an expensive electric car. Right now, the best option is maybe the Nissan Leaf, which is a piece of crap, or the Tesla, which is unaffordable. And by the way, all the power is created for those by coal-powered or nuclear-powered plants.
Require a lot of rapid change that we don't even conceive as possible right now.
She's saying it will require radical change that people don't conceive as possible right now, because it's not possible right now. It's not possible right now. It's government saying you have to do this. And it will fail. It will fail. It's beyond absurd. But this is a typical ignoramus child who is fresh out of college, literally just fresh out of college, and has no clue except for that she now has a position of power and she can tell you what you need to do. And it is unrealistic.
What is the problem with trying to push our technological capacities to the furthest extent possible?
This would require them raising taxes.
There's an element where, people are going to have to start paying their fair share in taxes.
Oh, there we go, the fair share. You don't pay enough in taxes, by the way. The people are going to have to start paying their fair share. There's no such thing as a fair share with Democrats. 100% is not their fair share. Honestly, there's no such thing as a fair share. Unreal.
Specific on the tax rate.
You look at our tax rates back in the 60s, and when you have a progressive...
What year exactly? Tell me exactly what year.
Tax rate system.
We already do, actually, fool.
Your tax rate, let's say from $0 to $75,000 may be 10%.
We've already got that, fool.
15%, etc. But once you get to the tippy tops.
The tippy tops. The tippy tops.
On your $10 millionth dollar, sometimes you see tax rates as high as 60 or 70%. That doesn't mean all $10 million are taxed at an extremely high rate, but it means that as you climb up...
You just called it an extremely high rate.
This ladder, you should be contributing more.
They already do. People who make millions and millions of dollars, they provide employment for millions and millions of people. You idiot.
What you are talking about, just big picture, is a radical agenda compared to the way politics is done right now.
Well, I
have no life experience, and I have not even a student of history. I really don't know what I'm talking about, but I know what my professors told me, and so I think it's possible that we can get rid of fossil fuels in 12 years. And we could tax people at like 75%.
That it only has ever been radicals that have changed this country. Abraham Lincoln.
There's some radicals who changed the world. There's Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin. You know what? Honestly, Abraham Lincoln was a radical, I guess, for the times. He was a Republican, by the way. He was a Republican, and he was anti-slavery. The Democrat Party was the party of slavery.
He made the radical decision to sign the Emancipation
Proclamation, by the way.
Franklin Delano.
You're going to compare your Green Jobs Initiative, called the New Deal, with Abraham Lincoln, the emancipation of slaves? Are you out of your gosh darn mind? Who gave you these talking points?
Made the radical decision
to inter Japanese people.
Embark on establishing programs like Social Security. That is radical.
Which, by the way, is going bankrupt.
Do you call yourself a radical?
Yeah, if that's what radical means, call me a radical.
Yeah, I know. I'll call you radical, but I'm going to include idiot there. I'm going to include child there. I'm going to include ignoramus there. There are some advantages to being on the planet for a few more years. And, I'm not an old man, but I am older than she. Learn from history. Learn from history, or you're doomed to repeat it. And she will. If she had her way, she would. Democrat voters also embrace socialism. Overwhelmingly, a majority of Democrats, 76%, said they would not vote for a socialist political candidate, while only 24% of those said they would. Apparently in August, that was a previous poll, August found that 47% of Democrats view capitalism positively, down from 56% in 2016. 57% of Democrats view socialism positively because they're not students of history. Green New Deal, dear God in heaven. couple more stories here, including a new movie. I'm gonna play a trailer for a new movie about Laurel and Hardy. Now, I don't know much about Laurel and Hardy. I kind of remember they're silent movie actors and whatever. We've seen them before, and they were, like Charlie Chaplin, a little post-Chaplin. But there's a new movie out about them that's pretty fascinating. And, the fat guy, which is Hardy, right? I want to show you this trailer, and I want you to guess who the guy playing Hardy is, because you're going to be shocked. Representative Hank Johnson, who is a dim wit, an idiot, gained notoriety for once expressing concern that the U.S. military personnel would capsize the island of Guam. Okay? He says that the travel ban by Donald Trump, which included countries like Iran, Syria, North Korea, and Venezuela, he's saying that they were like the Japanese internment in World War II. Now, he's saying this is a Muslim ban, even though it includes countries like Iran, Syria, North Korea, and Venezuela. And I don't think that either of those countries allow practicing Muslims, particularly North Korea. Here is, and this moron, he called Donald Trump. He said that Donald Trump was like Hitler a couple days ago. He is just as dumb as a box of rocks. Here he is speaking to a group of Democrats. I believe this was in Atlanta, about the travel ban and the Democrat policy of interring Japanese people in the United States during World War II.
Trump's vow during the campaign: stop Muslims from coming into our country.
That's a lie again. It's a lie. There were a bunch of countries where we were going to stop immigration from them until we were satisfied that they were not terrorists. They were not here to upset the country. And it happened that a few of them were largely Muslim. And this is a Democrat talking point that never is questioned by the national media.
That became a reality, ladies and gentlemen.
This guy sounds stupid even when he's reading words that were written for him. And obviously, he's reading words that were written for him because I don't think he can read. And I'm not even sure he can write.
Having been
yes, I called him illiterate.
Elected president, Trump signed an executive order banning people from certain Muslim countries from entering America.
And North Korea and Venezuela.
And the U.S. Supreme
These morons who are there sitting there, yeah, that's right.
Supreme Court, ignoring Trump's own words, allowed the Muslim ban to go forward. That was not the first time the
How can somebody so stupid get into a position of power?
U.S. Supreme Court has gotten it wrong with an executive order. In 1944, it ruled constitutional and executive.
I don't even know what you're talking about. But I said,
order.
I don't even know what it's 1944 could be anything.
Mandating the internment of Japanese American citizens of the United States.
I'm sure Hank Johnson thought that the internment of Japanese Americans involved an internship in Washington, D.C. I'm sure he thought that.
The States of America, 1944, U.S. Supreme Court, Korematsu. These folks, Japanese people, were full-fledged American citizens. They weren't here on tourist visas. They were born here. They just simply
man, it's so stupid.
Had Japanese heritage. Can you imagine how they decided?
What a gigantic just stretch of logic. Just a gigantic leap.
Who was Japanese and who was not? They probably put all the Oriental people in internment.
And he called them Oriental people. I was living in Minneapolis, and somebody called me out for using the word Oriental rug, and they were very upset. That was a dated expression 20 years ago. So he's trying to talk about how racist the Trump administration is, and then he uses the dated expression Oriental.
They're not you from China, Thailand. They all look the same, right?
Yes. Okay. Of course.
1944, U.S. Supreme Court. Executive order.
He's reading from a script. He has no idea what he's talking about. Unbelievable. And then he calls people, Asian people, Oriental. All right, before I go, I got one more story. I want to share this Laurel and Hardy trailer because it's pretty impressive. And when you find out who's playing the larger of the two, Hardy, you're going to be blown away. You're not going to believe who this actor is. So I'm going to share that with you. tpublic.com/user/conservatees. All of these great designs are available right now. T-shirts, mouse pads, coffee mugs, whatever. Hillary in 20 never. Get that. Get that. It's pretty cool. I'd appreciate it. Socialism sucks. That goes without saying. Although Alexandria Ocasio Cortez has not figured it out. Demwet offering free, I'll just go ahead and say it, free shit. We do, we're careful. We don't use like mother effer when, we're standing in front of children. So we bleeped out their shit. Make America Bait again is available there as well. All right. Okay. Also, by the way, you can follow me on Facebook at Rob Carson Show. You can follow me also on Twitter at Rob Carson. Become a member of Spreely, Spreely.com, by the way. Spreely.com is a new alternative to Facebook and Twitter. It is SPREELY.com. It stands for Speak Freely. Speak Freely. A friend of mine, Terry Littlepage, put it together. He's the guy who came up with Liberty One, which we see right over here. Liberty One. Okay. If you would become a member of Spreely and get a profile on there and follow me on Spreely as well, that would be great. Okay, one more story. This is a new movie coming out. Laurel and Hardy were this comic duo that started in silent movies. Back in their heyday, they sparked scenes of mob frenzy that bordered on hysteria. Liverpool, there were 10,000 people. Birmingham, thousands of people. In Glasgow, 8,000 people. And then World War II happened, and they came back in 1953 after the talkies were there, and they were desperate for cash, and they decided to come back together. I'm going to play a little bit of this trailer, and then I want you to guess who Hardy is, the fat guy. But it looks kind of like an interesting movie.
Camera set. Okay, back projection. Cue music. And action.
Hollywood legends Mr. Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy arrived in Britain today as they embarked on a national tour.
We're doing this while we're waiting for this new picture to come together. I'm going to make sure that this tour gets on.
Now, this is the story of them coming back together in 1953 and attempting a comeback after World War II and all that.
There it is. The Eiffel Tower.
It's amazing that you two are still going strong. Still using the same old material.
There they are.
Such a wonderful reception, isn't it, Ida?
It's okay.
2 double acts for the price of 1.
Pretty empty last night. I guess people just don't want to see Laurel and Hardy anymore.
Yeah.
I see them pushing you a little too hard, babe.
You know, Stan.
You could have said goodbye, Oliver. A long time ago.
We had a good thing going, but you had this big chip on your shoulder because I did a picture with someone else.
I couldn't sleep for days when they told me what you did. You're just a lazy ass. You got lucky because you met me.
Lucky to spend my life with a man who hides behind his typewriter?
You betrayed me. Betrayed our friendship.
You're hollow.
Who is he? That's John C. Reilly. That is John C. Reilly, who, by the way, I love. He was in Step Brothers. He was in Ricky Bobby. He was in Chicago. It was a brilliant performance in Chicago, Mr. Cellophane. This guy is an underrated actor. And this is pretty amazing.
Go on stage again in your condition.
John C. Reilly.
I love you, but I won't stand by and watch this nutty tour put you in a wooden box.
I should never have had us take this tour. I love him, Lita.
You're not leaving, are you, Stan? The show must go on.
Okay, could be good. Could be good. I haven't seen a good movie in a while. Haven't been to the movies in a while. Hey, I want to thank you for joining me, guys. Things are going to get ugly the next couple of years in Washington, D.C. We had our president called a mother effer. On the first day of Congress, we saw articles of impeachment introduced. We saw an attempt to overturn the Electoral College. This is the new civility in Washington, D.C. Right now, it's a verbal war, and it's a war of legislation and political power that will not see the light of day, but it's still ugly, and it's going to get really ugly. I support this president, and more so than ever because of the slings and arrows that he is going to suffer from this mob that has come to Washington, D.C. We've got a lot of things to fight for, and maybe this will awaken another sleeping giant. We'll see. Thank you for joining me, guys. Again, if you want to check out me on Facebook, it is Rob Carson Show. On Twitter, it is Rob Carson. In the meantime, and by the way, on YouTube, all of my video podcasts are there on YouTube as well. All right, check it out. YouTube, just look up Rob Carson, and I'll see you again sometime. God bless. Talk to you later.
Thanks for listening to The Rob Carson Show. Friend him on Facebook at Carson Show, on Twitter at Rob Carson, and on Instagram, I think Facebook and Twitter are enough for now.